I started the recording. Yes, I did. I started the recording. This is the Religion Outside the Box weekly spiritual religious gathering, a name that we keep changing around, and we can talk about that in a moment. I'm joined here by a whole bunch of people on the web. So let me say welcome to all the people who are watching on YouTube, Facebook. And somebody threatened to join by Twitch. And so, Morrissey, if you're here on Twitch, that's totally cool. If you put something up in the comments, we'll see you. There's a group of people who are still assembling by video. Everybody wave so they know that you're real. Thanks for waving. And I'll go back to you. So good morning. Good morning to Julie and Rob and Alexia and Charlene and Jordan and Ron and Ann and everyone who came in before and everyone I haven't said good morning to yet. Rabbi Brian, I know so because it says so right here. If you want to join us, if you're watching on a different platform, if you go to mn.rotb.org, you can find us through the clubhouse. And I'm so glad that you're all here. I wanted to just start by just doing a check-in. I have, not surprisingly, I have all my index cards and I have all these things that I want to talk about. But I remember that's my agenda. But I wanted to just check in and see how people are doing in the world, or give me a little bit facial. I don't know. Put your hands in the air if you just don't care, or thumbs up, or we're doing all right.
It's been hard for me this week, I admit.
Okay, I appreciate whoever just gave us the honesty. Was that Jocelyn?
Yeah, it was me.
Having a rough week, you said.
What? Yeah,
I had kind of like me.
Yeah, just a rough week. I had a birthday and I had to euthanize a cat, and then I had my RA flare. I ran out of medicine. And it was just a very hard week. And everyone else, I'm not trying to start.
No, you're not. I appreciate it, Jocelyn. And we can have a hard time and not bring other people down, and to share that we're having a hard time. Sometimes, sometimes that can be a little bit of help, just to know that we're not alone and that other people can witness our hard time. I heard. Go ahead, Emily.
I got my water on again. I had the people here switching us over to fiber optics. They cut the water line. All the water in the community went down. Nobody had water.
For fiber optics is usually an internet thing.
Yeah, they cut the water line for the internet.
They cut. Is that a usual practice, cutting water to install internet?
No, I think they would be calling that an act.
It was ineptitude.
Okay.
Well, I remembered what Jane said, though. We all make mistakes. We all get to learn.
Everybody makes mistakes. Everyone gets to learn. I'm going to share one that I remembered this week as I was at playing chess with Jordan and Reed. And I said, I got to go because I got to go make a sandwich and make Annie's lunch for tomorrow morning. And my friend Reed, he said, "Silly Rabbi, it's not that you have to go make Annie's lunch. You get to go make Annie's lunch."
Yes.
And I had forgotten the simple importance of substituting in, instead of saying I have to make her lunch, saying I get to make her lunch. And such a simple little linguistic trick, but boy, does it change the way that I have my outlook on things.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, get the burden off your back.
Yeah, it's a slight change of attitude, and changing it to I get to instead of I have to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a question to start us off with today. And I don't have I like this one. It's not like the Family Feud where there's a list of answers on the board and you just have to name the top answers and we'll turn ding, ding, and we'll turn over the top answers. I don't have what the top answers are. But here's the question that I have. Do you have in your arsenal, do you have a tool of what do you do to help you to get through an uncomfortable feeling? What do you have that you know you do, or a trick, kind of like the have to and get to? It's a simple little trick of adding in a little bit of gratitude. What do you do to help you sit through or get through uncomfortable feelings? Let me start with this one. Show of hands. Anybody ever have uncomfortable feelings? Remember, good pedagogy is you get everybody to answer a question, the easy questions first, and then they get involved. Everyone has uncomfortable feelings from now and again. Besides a bowl of chocolate ice cream, which is not a bad answer. What do you do to get through uncomfortable feelings? Yeah, Rob, what do you have? Dark chocolate. Dark chocolate flavor. Okay, dark chocolate can be a helpful thing to get us through uncomfortable feelings. What else you have, Jocelyn?
So I was actually trained in to handle uncomfortable situations from a very young age, and I turn off my emotion and turn on my logic and think my way through.
Yeah. So
and that's a survival tactic.
Yeah, survival tactic. Not look, a bowl of chocolate ice cream might not be the most healthy answer, but it works.
It does.
And Jocelyn, I think you're absolutely right. Saying I don't want to feel that right now. I'm going up into my safe space up here. That's a tactic.
What'll help you assess on whether you're being manipulated or whether there is truly a problem that you need to worry about. And in that case, you don't want to be thinking with your emotions anyway. You want to think clearly so that you can figure out where you actually stand.
Okay, it's fair. What else do people do? So you start feeling uncomfortable emotions. And any other thoughts? Yeah, Candace, and then Ray.
I hate to use the word acceptance again. I might dislike something very much, and I don't get rid of the feeling necessarily. It's just like, this is the way it is. This is how it is.
Yeah.
And I just have to go with it,
Yeah, an acceptance or surrender of. There's a great quote by Robert Frost, and it says, "The best way out is through."
Yep.
And I'll have a picture I want to draw of that in a second. I know I called on somebody, and then people started raising their hands. And was there? I have Ellis and then Al. Ray, thank you. I would have missed you, Ray. Ray, and then Ellis, and then Al, and then Jack.
Well, the way I do it is I find a quiet place to sit, and I do a little meditation, and just realize that those are feelings or those are sensations.
Yeah.
And they're like the wind; they come and they go.
Yeah, so to just sit in the feeling is a similar technique of just sitting in the feeling. Yeah, Ellis? Wait, I had someone before Ellis. Jack, then Ellis, then Al.
Fine with me if you want to.
I missed that one.
Me too.
Jack?
Yeah. Well, who's up? Am I up?
It's you, Jack.
All right. I do the reverse. I get into how I'm feeling about it.
So to dive into the feeling?
Yeah, I dive into the feeling, and usually what pops up is a fight or flee.
Okay.
And I realize, in both of those, I just kind of say, I'm uncomfortable. My intuition says, just get by it. Let it run.
Sit in it. Do it. Ellis, then Al.
I just remember, in other words, remember what I already know. And what I know through many years of introspection and study and so forth is that those feelings, like somebody already said, are transient. Mm-hmm. They're also not real.
Oh, interesting.
They're negative. So I just stop and remember what the truth is. And then start rebuilding back to where.
Sounds again. You're on the just sit through it. Just it will disappear like the clouds if you just wait long enough.
Yeah, but I also apply what I know.
Right. You use some of the logic that Jocelyn was advocating.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I used to, as soon as I got into an uncomfortable situation, I would think, how can I fix my way out of this? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
can I make this all go away? How can I resolve the underlying problem? But I guess I've learned to do very much the opposite. Whenever I'm feeling really uncomfortable, to say like, "Whoa, take a break here. I've got a feeling here. Let me
Mm.
try to identify what the feeling is. Let me not think about what caused it. Let me not think about what I want to do about it. Let me just think about how I'm feeling."
Thank you, Meg. And then I'm going to draw you guys a picture.
One of the things I do is to take a deep breath and try to stay with that feeling.
To stay
and
in the
figure
feeling.
out, huh?
To stay in the feeling.
Stay in the feeling. And if it's in a safe place.
Aha, of course.
Okay. And then sort of like Al, try to figure out, why is this so uncomfortable for me? What am I missing? What do I need to change or look at?
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we just had a sit through. I'm gonna draw a picture, and thank you guys all for sharing. So this is something I learned from Larry, not my usual BFF Larry, but a different Larry, Larry Lincoln, who's in Arizona, in Tucson, and he taught me this. And he said, when I was younger, this is a person, says, when I was younger and I'd start to fall down into a bad place, he said, I would crawl, I would clamp in, I would do anything I could to keep myself from falling into the hard place. And I try to keep myself out of that. And he said, as I got older, I realized if I just let myself have the feeling, I'd have a little bit of inertia more on the way back up. So instead of crawling and making it go slower and slower until you wind up at the bottom with absolutely flat, he said, I just dive into the feeling now. And so I can feel through the feeling a little faster. And I think that's a lot of what people were saying.
That's what the chocolate's for.
And then there's chocolate to give you energy at the bottom if you do need it. I'm going to give you, this is we watched a movie last night, and Emmett he enjoys movies and the plot of movies, and there was a scene and he goes, well, that's foreshadowing. And it was like it took me out of the magic of the moment, but I really enjoyed my son.
Why the hell are you on my fucking tail?
All right, I think somebody is driving at the time. That was an interesting one.
Sorry.
They're a dog.
It's all right. So Emmett said about foreshadowing. So this uncomfortable feeling that we're talking about here, let me do a little Emmett spoiler alert. That's foreshadowing. Because if we do today right, we're going to have a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling. And I thought I would set us up before we get there by knowing we're going to be headed towards an uncomfortable feeling. And I'm going to ask us to take the advice that we just gave ourselves, which is instead of running up into our heads and assuming that if we're in a safe enough space, to just feel the uncomfortable feeling and notice. And it's the same thing I know when I'm teaching people to meditate, is it's really uncomfortable to sit quietly with disturbing thoughts. We don't like doing it, but we can train ourselves to sit through it. So coming up, spoiler alert, there are going to be uncomfortable feelings coming up. So stick around. Rob has his chocolate at the ready, so that's good. Brace yourselves, anything you need to do.
Anybody can have a piece.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to offer, Rob. I want to pick up with the topic that we've been looking at, this anti-racism topic, and I want to ask a question. And I want to start with this question, and I'll take a few examples, and I would love to hear from people who we haven't heard from. And so last week we talked about the broccoli in your teeth. image of if somebody says something a little bit racist that you can say, hey, you know, just like you, I would tell you if you had some broccoli in your teeth, I might want to tell you what you said was a little bit racist. And I wanted to elaborate first on that and saying that the thinking behind this idea, and this is by a rapper named Jay Smooth, the idea behind saying, hey, if you had broccoli in your teeth, I'd tell you, I also want to just let you know you said something a little bit racist. The idea behind it is instead of saying this black and white, you're a racist, like, I'm like, where's anyone going to go if you say that? But instead of saying you are a racist, and it goes very well with those of you who are fans of Marshall Rosenberg and nonviolent communication. It's we're not saying you are a racist. We're saying that was a little racist, and so that you can include the whole person. So that being said, do you have an example in your life where there was an uncle of yours or a coworker or a boss or somebody said something or did something a little bit racist and you thought, hey, you know what? This is not a safe thing for me to call out right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for those examples today. Is there something that happened that you can give us an example we can share? An example where somebody said something a bit racist and you were like, oh, I would call them out, but this is not the time. This is not the time to call them out. Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, so I had an incident. I work for a company that is very conscious about trying to be anti-racist, and my immediate boss also happens to be the head of HR, and she said something that she meant to be anti-racist, but it kind of turned out to be also anti-Semitic in her attempt to correct something. She was trying to correct, like she posted something publicly in our Slack channel about how we need to be careful about, I'm forgetting the actual words.
Residential schools.
Yeah, it was about the residential schools and how we shouldn't actually call them residential schools because that kind of colonial language is whitewashing. So she said we should call it what it is, extermination camps for Indigenous children. And yeah, so I had to, this is A, my boss, and B, the head of HR, and she's published this personally, so I had to very politely point out that yes, the colonial language is problematic, but extermination camp is not the correct word we should be using.
Yeah. And
explained about how that then denies the reality of the Holocaust. So that was a very
thank you, Anne.
Stressful.
Yeah, you did even better than the example I'm asking for. Is you called out someone in a very difficult situation, and you were able to call them out and say, and I'm looking for though the dinner table and the whole family's there, and your racist uncle says something, and you make the decision that this might not be the right time to call someone and say something. Yeah, Ron. And I love hearing all these different voices today. It's just fantastic. Go ahead, Ron.
You're muted.
Ron, we cannot agree with you at all because we can't hear you.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry. One of my closest friends had his brother visiting from the other side of the country, from Washington, D.C. And we were in Rich's recording studio, just sitting around, and his brother was a biker, I'm a biker, and he uses the N-word. And I'm about to say something when I look over at Rich, and there's this look of fear on his face.
Wow.
And I shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. So you made a decision not to call someone out at that moment. Thank you for sharing. Bob and then Marcus. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, I guess in sitting and listening to some of this, I look at it maybe in a little bit different way. That if I am going to point out somebody as being a racist, in my opinion, I'm making a judgment about that.
And that's perfectly fine to do, as we said
well, I think that I'm sorry I interrupted you.
It's okay. I interrupted you.
All right. So are we even? So what I'm thinking for me is a better way of saying it is, I'm uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, that'd be a nice way of saying it instead of saying you racist.
Right.
I agree, Bob, because even telling someone that what you said was a little bit racist is going to make them go, they're going to hear you're calling me a racist.
I like that, Robin. So what you just said made me feel a little uncomfortable. I like that. That's a great, yeah, let's adopt that. And here's the thing, and then we'll get to Marcus's comment. Practice saying this in your head, please, so that when the moment comes, God willing it shouldn't, but that you are prepared and you have the phrase, hey, you know what you just said made me feel a little uncomfortable. How about before we get to Marcus, can everyone do a little bit of just saying something? Like you just heard someone say something, they just said, can you just do a little practice in your own head of what you would say? Go ahead, do that right now.
What you said made me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It made me uncomfortable.
I feel good. Thank you, Emily, for doing it out loud so we didn't all have to sit in silence. Marcus, you had something you were going to add. And then Robin. Oh, no, you were scratching your head. Sorry. I fall for that all the time.
Dangerous.
Go, Marcus.
So yesterday at work, I took over running the front desk and being the greeter because we were really short. And I think yesterday I noticed a lot of subtle racism.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bothering me all day. And this guy, he's twice as big as me and he's taller and stuff, and big white guy, and he's angry at my coworker, and he's like, I gave my paperwork to that colored guy, and in my head I wanted to be like, his name is Ahmed, and we don't call people that, you don't refer to people as that anymore. But I just clammed up because I'm looking at this guy and he's ready to come through the glass because we just have this like plexiglass between us for COVID. And I just shut down.
Yeah.
And then I was angry at myself for not sticking up for my buddy and my coworker and saying something, but I didn't feel in that moment.
You didn't feel safe
to do so.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone just show of hands? Anyone have the one around the dinner table where you have your uncle, your racist uncle, done said something, and you felt this is not the time to? Yeah. How has everyone got a racist uncle? I don't know how that's possible, but it's
That's
just kind of amazing. I'm going to go to Anne, who we haven't heard from yet. Anne?
I had a different response to my cousin, and she doesn't do it anymore. Those of you who know me in small groups know I talk a lot. And one of my many cousins who are racist and full MAGA was on the phone with me. And this is the last cousin I have a relationship with, really. Because others are down QAnon hole. And she had, I have a good joke for you, Anne. And she told me an N-word joke.
Mm-hmm. And what did you say back? I think Anne's video froze exactly there. Go ahead. No, it didn't.
That was my response.
Your response was no response at all. Okay.
Was absolute silence.
Okay.
And I let it go on and on and on. And she finally said to me, "Oh, I guess you didn't think that was funny."
I
said no.
Great strategy.
Wow,
and that was it. And I, I mean, I did to her exactly what I just did to you. I mean,
it was well done. I thought the Zoom went out. It was great. Well played,
really
Bob,
well.
and then Alex. Bob, then Alex.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say, so I'll take my hand down.
Thank you, Bob. Alex.
So my parents had a really good friend who would routinely come around. He was a traveling salesman and he would visit us, and he would routinely use a variation of the two N words combined together. He would say absolutely homophobic things. He would say racist things. He would just say just awful things. At least even to me as a kid, I was I was shocked. And my parents would just sit there and
nod along.
They didn't say anything. And of course, being a child, I had no power and I didn't dare say anything. But even to this day, and my mother's now passed, and their friend is passed. But I look back on this and I truly adored this man because he was a traveling salesman and he would always bring little knickknacks for my sister and I. And yet I look back on that and it almost feels like my relationship with him is sort of tainted because as an adult I realized what this was that I didn't see as a kid.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Bob, then Rita. Bob, you got it back. Your thought.
Yes, my comment or my possible suggestion to Marcus was, oh, you mean, and then the name of that person.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Rita. And it's good to see you, Rita. Haven't seen you for a while.
Hi there. Well, all this talk about cousins at the table and that kind of thing made me realize something I hadn't ever thought about before. But I grew up in Kentucky, and I realized that's why I moved to California. I mean, I just didn't want to hear anything more like that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm in Santa Cruz.
Okay. So I'm gonna offer this thought, which is sometimes it's uncomfortable to bring up anti-racist rhetoric. It's uncomfortable to call someone out. And the question that I'm gonna put to us is, so we see what's at stake when we have the opportunity to say something. And I'm gonna ask us to think, what's at stake when we don't? Like, what's at stake when we don't stand up? And what's at stake is huge.
Dignity.
People thinking that's normal or we approve of it.
Yeah. And are we sacrificing, and I say we, and by we I mean white passing folk, are we saving our own hide at the expense of somebody else's?
Of course.
And to sink that in for a moment, I'm going to say one other piece, and this is where it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's easier to say, and Rita, I'm going to just pick up the last comment, but it could be from anywhere. It's easier to say that person, that whole Kentucky, those people are the ones who are racist. I'm not that. It's the older white men who are racist. I'm not an older white man. I'm a middle-aged white man. That those people are racist. And I'm willing to go and push everyone a little bit in saying they are not the racists. We all are. And we're all part of the problem as so long as we're not doing more to, this should be gone. This should already have been gone. And the fact that it's not gone is on us. I'm going to stop my little sermon there. And I know that might be a little bit of an uncomfortable thing to hear. But that's why we started with what do you do when you feel something uncomfortable is be uncomfortable. And I think we should be uncomfortable. And I'll sew it all up with this. It would be easier. Wait. I almost had it. I do have it. It's just going to take me a second. The same way that it's easier to not call someone out, but what's at stake if we don't call them out? It's uncomfortable to realize that we are part of the problem and that we are the problem. But what's at stake if we don't do that? Mm-hmm. If we don't sit through the discomfort that we feel as white folk, if we don't sit through the discomfort and going, we are the problem, it's not them, it's us. Mm-hmm. If we don't sit through that, what are we saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, remember I told you it was going to be uncomfortable? Here we are. Mm-hmm. 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 Bob and then Rags, and then we're going to take a switch around, and we can be out of this discomfort soon. No, but we will move on. Go Bob, then Rags.
I have a question in a sense. Is it only white people that can be racist?
No, but we're the best at it.
Or
I'd say we're good at it, but not the best. There's some good ones out there.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
That I sometimes am in a confusing situation of how to deal with something.
Yeah.
And I was just reading something that was in the in one of our news things here about a person who was describing a situation where they were saying what another person had slipped out of their mouth to say what another person had said in describing the incident. And
okay, I'm sorry, Bob. I got a little bit lost here, and my phone just blew up a little bit. I just got news that somebody's uncle is in the ICU, went on to vent, and I got lost there. Pick me back up, Bob. And
okay, I was reading about an incident in one of the local schools where a person had used the N-word.
Okay.
And the person who was describing the situation, instead of saying the person had used an N-word, the person used the actual word in describing the situation.
Okay.
And so that what went through my mind is that when somebody tells me the N-word, not saying that, but uses the phrase the N-word,
right? What
happens in my mind?
Yeah. That's there's a comedian who makes a routine out of that and says, you're now making me into the racist because when you say the N-word, I fill it in my own head, and now I've done that. Yeah, right. That's I can't think of the guy's name right now, but it's a thank you. Rags, please. Thank you, Bob.
Two things. One, when we're figuring out whether to call somebody out, that sort of thing, that can be very self-protective in the sense, not in a positive sense, and saying, claiming the high ground for me and putting you on the outside, you're
Correct.
the racist.
Correct.
So that I've become more happy with I'm uncomfortable with that because
I like that.
It's taking it on me instead of saying you're a racist, therefore out of my inner circle.
Yeah.
Implied, you're not one of us. And I think what we're always needing to be about is expanding the boundaries of us.
Amen. And that's what this whole that's exactly.
And that's whether it's your uncle or somebody on a bus.
And I would say also with the uncle one is I hear many people say on cancel culture is that they've cut out all the people who they label as racist out of their lives
Yeah.
And then my worry is,
That
well, then
doesn't
who's
help.
going to educate those people?
Well, and if the whole point is they are excluding people, how are we making it better?
Right. There was a sign at a church I saw that said, I would rather be known for who I include than who I exclude. I'm not getting the quote exactly right, but
yeah.
Go ahead, Anne.
Wait,
go ahead, Regs. I apologize. Thank you.
It's a, in some senses, a bigger one. You say we white folk are the best
at racism,
and in our context, that's probably true. That's clearly what I need to own, being someone all of whose ancestors were colonial people stealing this continent. That's very real. That's me. That's my world. But I believe it is, from my study of history and my knowledge of other cultures, this is a human thing.
Oh, to make others into, yeah.
Yes. I mean, you look at what the Han people are still doing in China, ask the Uyghurs. You look at just name the culture. It's all over the world. Yeah. The people who get to power, part of how they get to power is by othering other groups. And so to understand it as a human tendency and not just a white thing,
correct,
it makes it more possible for us white folks to understand it in human terms and try to live beyond it. But also it doesn't let everybody else off the hook, that it's only white, it's only whiteness. We've gotten in a place that whiteness becomes the human problem. Well, we can get rid of the whiteness focus and we've still got this human tendency of othering. So
yes,
and
also saying that white folks are best at it. Also, it's not so much that we're best at it as we have the privilege, and so we are in the position of power.
Correct.
And so, when we are racist, it affects people and affects their lives and affects their ability to get a job, and puts them in jail, as opposed to, if a person of color is racist, then okay.
It's not the power is
not there.
It's whoever's getting
in our context here.
In our culture, yes.
And also,
if you want to be really uncomfortable,
go for it, Carol.
Read The Christian Imagination by Willie Jenkins. He is a divinity professor at Yale Divinity School, and he shows you how racism began, because it wasn't always there. Othering may always be. What?
I was going to ask somebody to put the name of that into the chat, please. But go ahead. Keep telling us, Carol. Someone else can do that.
And he shows how it was supported by the Pope, and how they referred to black people as black gold because they were commodities. And it's just the most amazing book to see how the attitudes that were developed in colonization still reside in much of what's taught in Christianity now.
Oh, thank you for that book recommendation, Carol. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take us a moment. Joe had to run off onto the phone. It's usually when we take a moment to do some prayers for those who are in need of healing, and I'm going to start with Joe's uncle, who just is the reason that she had to leave the phone. But I'll ask other people, are there to say or to put into the chat names of people for whom we would like to have, for whatever our focused intention does in the world. I'm not getting into that, but you have someone whose name you'd like to add that name now.
My brother David.
Amen.
Friend named Michelle.
Or Big Natal.
Rita, Peter.
Amen. So let's take a minute worth of time for all the names that we've said and for all the names that have not been said. We'll start with a minute of time just when this clock above my head here gets to 1/4 after. Thank you guys for that moment. I want to share with you some announcements. On my screen here, mn.rotb.org, you should be able to get to most Religion Outside the Box things through the Religion Outside the Box Clubhouse. If you want to find out more about the Shekinah group, which is a group that talks about God, to please go there. We have a newly formed 12-step group. If you've never been to a 12-step group before, or if you are a veteran, it's a group that meets on Mondays. Also, you can see in the clubhouse we have a spotlight where we look at different members, and there's some great people to learn about. I do want to make a quick announcement. Christina, who's on, I saw Christina a moment ago. There she is. There's Christina.
Hi.
Christina wrote this lovely book called What We Know About God. Christina helps to run the Shekinah group. So if you want to find out more about her book, her thoughts about the divine, to please go over into the chat to do that. And then, folks, this is coming up. You guys will be among the first to know. I posted it to the clubhouse yesterday. Religion Outside the Box runs this service, right? That's how I get to be here. Is I'm the salaried employee of Religion Outside the Box, and I get to do this, and I only get to do that with your help. Coming up at the end of October is the Religion Outside the Box amazing, somewhat quirky silent auction. And there are all these different things that you can bid on. And you see in the bottom of the screen, it says galabid.com/ROTB. And Alex, if you could put that into the chat, you can bid on different things like making a lamp with me, meditation instructions, magic tricks, dinner with my mom in her apartment in New York City, I'll sing to your friends and record a video. This is the quirky Religion Outside the Box silent auction. It's kind of fun. So if you take a look at galabid.com/ROTB. And more than that, I was told very important in running a silent auction is to not only get the people who you can reach to show up, so that's all of you, but also to ask you, would you send that link along to your friends? Say, I really enjoy this stuff that this rabbi is doing on Saturday mornings. Yes, I have a rabbi who I talk to on Saturday mornings, and no, don't judge me for that. And if you were brought up Jewish, it wouldn't seem as odd that you have a rabbi in your life. But to please send people to make bids and to help do this Religion Outside the Box fundraiser. And I have solved the problem we had last year when we had an auction. Last year's auction had a big problem where everybody's names were visible, and you very nice people, and I wouldn't trade any of you for the world, did not want to outbid each other.
Right.
Like, oh, look, Maria's winning that. I don't want to take that away from Maria. So this year, when you register for the auction, I will then make your name. There's you can click off Make Name Anonymous. And if you don't click off Make Name Anonymous, I will click that off for you, so that none of you know who it is you're bidding against. I'm going for here's my once a year exception, and I'm asking you all to please be as cutthroat as possible. You know how I talk about being nice all the time? Not in this case. Thank you very much. Okay. Other announcements, things that people want to add in, or anyone else have a book that they recently published? I have good news about my book. I have a meeting with the developmental editor on Monday. She sent me a large outline of how she thinks the book should be, the order of the book, and I'm really excited about that. So I'll tell you more about that next week. Other things? Okay, we still have time. I have some more cards some more things I want us to look at. So, oh, hold on. Wrong screen. Oh, hold on. There we are. So just first we're going to do a quick review. Where is that? Here it is. Quick review. The five elements of a spiritual life. 5 elements of a spiritual life. And then we're going to move on today and we're going to learn these 6 characteristics of the spiritual religious. So there are 5 qualities of a spiritual life. And then there are 6 different ways that people act who have spiritualism in their lives. Quick review. What are the 5 elements of 5 qualities of a spiritual life? Do you remember it? Can anyone give me one of them? Is everyone doing that thing that Anne did where you just stay really, really quiet for a moment?
Oh, Rags answered questions more than answers.
One of the qualities of spiritual life is that we believe that not knowing and being in mystery is more important than certainty. That doubt is uncomfortable, but certainty is ridiculous. Give me another one. We're 1/5 of the way there. 20%.
Hierarchy of values.
Hierarchy of values. A spiritual life is a life in which we don't say everything's equal value. No, spiritual life, we say things like love are more important than things like war. That's 2 swords, my little image there. That's 2 swords clashing against each other. That's 2 qualities of spiritual life. A third quality of a spiritual life might include
transcendence.
Transcendence, some sense of the infinite, some sense that there's more going on that connects us than that keeps us separate. 3 to go. Transformation. A spiritual life is about transformation. It's saying, I'm not done. I'm still growing. And the last quality of a spiritual life,
it's not all about me.
Is 2 parts to that it's not about
me. It is about me.
And to know that it is about me. And that leads us into paradox and knowing that a spiritual life can hold both at the same time. It doesn't only have to be one. Fantastic job. 5 qualities of spiritual life. Well done, team. I'm going to add in today 6 characteristics of spiritualism. This is from the work about a spiritual exemplar from a Professor Scarlett, published in 2012. Oh, the 5 qualities of a spiritual life. This was all from the work of Eric Fromm. I adapted it and made the little pictographs for it. This one from Professor Scarlett, I don't have yet the pictographs, but I'll tell you what these the hard first. Yeah. 6 qualities of a spiritual life. First quality of a spiritual life is T&C, and hold on, I'm going to put this all. I made a thing. I did. Is that somebody who is living a good spiritual life is tolerant and compassionate. That if you're living a spiritual religious life, you are tolerant and compassionate. It means you're wise. It means that you are that you're open. Second quality of the people who live spiritual religious lives is that they are filled with conviction, that they have an idea. It's not just that you're doing one thing, but you have a conviction. You stand fully in that which you believe. And I didn't like this one at first, but the second part is success. That to be fully a spiritual religious person is that you can't just do this in the ivory tower of academia. You have to have some success. You have to have taken your ideas, and it has to have gotten some groundswell. It has to have done something. It can't just be conceptual. The third, which is the fifth and then sixth of a spiritual life, is that the spiritual religious people are filled with both faith and reason. If you live a spiritual religious life, you don't just go by faith alone, and you don't just go by reason alone, but you have both. Now that we have all... Say that again, Bob.
No, this is Jack. I'd like to add to that.
Okay.
You know without knowing how you know.
Correct. Well, okay, that yes, but that's not in this part of Scarlett's work. That's going to... So how about next week we talk about the qualities of a mystical life, which are going to overlap with these. So preview of what's to come. I'm going to make a note of that so I don't forget. Next week we're going to talk about qualities of a mystical experience, and we can look at, maybe we'll look at how they overlap with these. And you're totally right, Jack. That's one of my favorites. Let me just go with the 6 that I have here for today. 6 characteristics of a spiritual religious life. What's the first one? T and C.
Tolerance and compassion.
Tolerance and compassion. And then maybe while you're listening to this, you think to yourself, could I do a little bit more of that?
Utter conviction.
Tolerance and compassion. C and S?
Conviction and success.
Conviction and success. And finally, the last 2.
Faith and reason.
Faith and reason. Okay.
I like, on the success thing is a really good quote from Rumi.
Tell us, Jack.
It's a one-liner. When you fail, you know you are loved.
Mm-hmm. When you fail, you know you are loved. I wish we all knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a hard one to see. That's a deep one. Thank you, Rumi. Thank you, Jack. All right, folks. I have done the cards that I had prepared for today. And that gets me to where I am right at this moment. And I'm going to do this thing that I've never done before, which I'm going to call it right here where we are. I'm going to say, I'm not running all the way to the 9 o'clock hour at my time. I'm going to stop where we are right for now.
7 minutes short.
And hold on, let me switch cameras. I'm going to stop the recording. So I'm going to ask all of you who are here by video to wave and say goodbye to all the peoples.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, peoples. And then we can